5. To block this call and all future calls, press 7. To reject this call, hang up now. You may begin speaking now.
Hello, welcome to Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso. So let me go back and let's do it this way. 2007, and there's quite a few of you know this story. In 2007, I transferred from Butner FMC to Butner FCI 1, where I was sent to Georgia Tech, to housing unit over there, where I lived with Carmine Persico, who at the time was, I guess, the acting boss, really, even though he's incarcerated, of the Colombo crime family. For 3.5 years, I was there with him, and I've said this repeatedly, and I will say this many times. The guy was kind of like a dad to me. I was around him a lot. We had our differences for sure, but I thought the world of the old guy, and his whole mafia thing that he had going on, or that he was about, as far as on the street, or what he did, it never meant anything to me. I treated him with respect because he was my elder, and never really even asked questions that much. And I've done lives about this with me and a guy named Chucky and Nick the Greek, where they will tell you that I had very little interest in Carmine's life on the street. Anyway, there was a time where an incident occurred in the chow hall with Carmine and a kid from D.C., a young black kid from D.C. He was sitting at the table, and Carmine was very adamant about sitting in a certain spot. He basically was the only one in Butner that had a table. If you were associated with Carmine and you were one of those guys, I was, then you sat at the table. Nobody else had a table in that prison. Well, Carmine got into it with the kid. The kid threw some water or some Kool-Aid on him, whatever. Chuck came up, was going to jump on the kid. Fight ensued, or almost did, and then we ended up out in the yard later with knives, and it was a pretty big deal. This was reported accurately in gangland, I should say. Jerry Capici's mob media platform he has, or whatever you want to call it. Well, I left in 2011, and I kept in touch with Carmine several times, through mail. We went back and forth a few times. When I got out, before I got out, I sent him a letter, told him about when I got married to my wife, because he knew her and all that stuff. And I also found out at that time that Nicky Scarfo, the former boss of the Philly crime family, was at Butner with Carmine. And I was hearing rumors that those two...
This call is from a federal prison.
Carmine has a personality, I will say, and he is, I guess, maybe considered himself a bigger boss. I don't know, I wasn't there, but this is what I do know, and this is from a source that I trust. Now, I heard this story before, but I never heard it from the person who was actually on Nicky's side. This is a guy who used to push Nicky around in his wheelchair, okay? He was there during the last and final confrontation when Nicky told Carmine that he was a fucking rat. And what he meant by that was that Carmine represented himself at a trial, that infamous trial known as the commission trial, and there was a lot of guys that were pissed off. A lot of the commission, a lot of the mob guys that went to trial with Carmine, they got pissed off because Carmine represented himself. They kind of felt that he drug them down. Well, apparently, during that trial, him and Rudy Giuliani, who was prosecuting the case, were getting into it, and something about the American Mafia or La Cosa Nostra or whatever, who at the time, it was supposed to be a secret. Nobody was talking about it. It was a hush-hush deal, and I guess Carmine popped off, and I'm paraphrasing, and said something, of course there's an American Mafia or we wouldn't be here. Something to that nature. That is why Nicky called Carmine a rat. It was everything to do with that. Now, at the same time that went on, I guess Vic Arena, who was Carmine's longtime, there used to be good friends, and then Rita tried to take over the family when Carmine was locked up, and then there was a bunch of murders that ensued. But Nick was coming out and filed the compassion release. In it, they said that Carmine was a long-time FBI informant. So this was all kind of going on at the same time, from what I understand. I do know that Nicky said that he didn't believe that, according to my friend here, who was not a fan of Carmine whatsoever. But he was close with Nicky, and as a matter of fact, he claims that he has the last photograph Nicky ever took before he passed away. And I believe him, and because this guy's probably he's 60 years old. He's got, I don't know, maybe 7-8 years in this picture, something he treasures and values. So that's something that he'll hold on to and release when he gets out or whatever. But the guy was close with him for sure. But I will say this, and I've said this before, when it came out about Carmine being an FBI informant, my initial instinct wasn't to say no. And what I mean by that is I don't think he put people away or ever had anything to do with putting people away. But all these guys in positions of power, the heads of the family, heads of different families and stuff, one of the things that happens is they had a lot of corrupt cops on the take, right? And it doesn't seem like too big of a leap to say that if you have these cops on the take and they're either paying you're paying them, whatever the hell's going on, that information isn't passed. And I always felt that way. And that's pretty much with all big leaders of groups, organizations, or whatever. And so there's a couple things he told me that kind of rubbed me wrong in that direction. But obviously, look, the guy did his whole life in prison. So, you can't say that he was cutting deals or, people went to prison or that we know cutting deals as a rat to get out or nothing like that. There's no way anybody can say that. Where's the proof? If that would have happened, he would have got cut loose. He had many chances to do something like that. But for sure, that did happen. For sure, Nicky did tell Carmine he was a rat. Carmine then threatened to have him hit and a bunch of other stuff.
This call is from a federal prison.
Of them, Carmine later got an infection, went to the hospital. Nicky died shortly after that. They did stay away from each other, but the two hated each other. I can't say that's the first person that was in that life that was around Carmine that came to Butner and they ended up not talking. Joey Testa was close with Carmine. Well, I don't know if he's ever talked about it. Carmine for sure got on his nerves. But Johnny G was over there for a minute. Him and Carmine were kicking it pretty tough, and then, they had the falling out. And, after a certain amount of time, Johnny G moved to a different side of the unit just to get away from him. The guy was difficult, for sure. But I wouldn't have traded some of those memories with him for anything. I was in prison. As far as being in prison and being around him, I'm glad that our paths crossed, for sure. And I did learn a lot from him about Italian culture in New York, back in the 40s, 50s, pictures that he showed me and stuff like that. Okay, well, anyway, this came out today. We were talking, so I'd throw this one out there. Hopefully this week I'll have some news about my halfway house date. I'm so sick of being here, and it feels like every minute feels like, Jesus Christ, my days are so long right now. It's sick. It's terrible. Talk to you later. Thanks for your support. Bye.